It's an introduction to cells and tissues. Hi, I'm Larry Johnson. I'm a professor at Texas A&M University, and we're going to talk about some cells and tissues. Living substance is known as protoplasm, and the smallest unit of living substance is a cell. And some animals only have a single cell. So if you're alive, you are composed of cells. That's plants or animals. Several cells get together to do a similar function that makes a tissue. And there's 4 types of tissue. You've got muscle, nerve, epithelium, and connective tissue. Several tissues get together to do a common function that makes an organ. Skin, kidney, liver, blood vessels, those are organs. Several organs get together of a similar function, and that makes a system. Respiratory system, digestive system, immunologic system, different systems of the body. But the smallest unit of protoplasm is a cell. And here we see a cell. There's a cell membrane and various organelles inside there. So the cell is composed of the nucleus and the cytoplasm that's inside there, and we can see the various structures that are inside the cytoplasm. So that's a cell. Groups of cells get together, makes a tissue. Tissues get together, make an organ. Organs get together to make an organ system. So what are the 4 basic types of tissue? You have epithelium. That's what covers your skin, the epidermis. There's connective tissue. That's the connective tissue below the support tissue below the epithelium. We have muscle and we have nerves. So there's 4 basic types of tissue of the body. If we look at epithelium, one thing that occurs with them, they have junctions between adjacent cells. In doing so, they hold hands. And in hold hands, they create cavities. So they cover organs. They cover the inside of your blood vessels that we see there. They cover the cavity of your heart is what they do. There are also secretory cells of cells. So the liver, the pancreas, the pituitary, all those have secretory cells in their epithelium. Epithelium is on the top. If you look at your belt, the shiny part is the epithelium. Below that, the rough part is the connective tissue below the dermis. And so the connective tissue does just that. It connects. It's a histologic glue. We see some fat cells here and some fibroblasts, characteristic of connective tissue. Also connective tissue, we see blood cells. And here we see red blood cells, and we see white blood cells and platelets. Red blood cells carry oxygen and carbon dioxide. White blood cells combat infection, and the platelets that we see here cause blood to clot. So in addition to epithelium, we have muscle. Muscle that's happened to be cardiac muscle. You can see the A and I bands right in through there, and you see this big band. This is the intercalated disc between 2 cells. This cell is connected to that cell. The function of muscle is to generate contractile force to move things along. In this case, the muscle is to make your heart beat. Here we see smooth muscle that we see. In addition to smooth muscle, there's nerve right in here. These are nerve cell bodies that we see. There's a nucleus and the nucleolus and the cytoplasm of the nerve. There's various types of shapes of nerve cells, but they all have a cell body. So this is a cell body right in through there with the nucleus and the nucleolus associated with it. Now, if we look at the epithelium, we can see epithelium in the eye. We can see epithelium in your nasal cavity. We can see epithelium on your epidermis outside your skin. And we can see that cavities like your brain, the pleura inside there, is really composed of the dura that's inside there is composed of epithelium. There's also connective tissue. We see that in bone is connective tissue. We see that cartilage in your nose. You got connective tissue in your skin, and you got fat on the back of your head. That is all connective tissue. Muscle. We have muscle to be able to eat with. We have muscle to move your necks. We have muscle to move your eyes. And then there's nervous tissue. Of course, the obvious nervous tissue is your brain. There's also nervous tissue in your back of your eye because you have your retina here, so that's nervous tissue. And then we have nervous tissue in your hair itself. Have you ever seen a cat upset and stick his hair up? Then that is a nervous tissue that is telling the muscle cells to contract to do that. And then here we see the yellow that we see there are little nerves coming out of the spinal cord that we see. So if we look at a structure here, we look at the eye, we will be able to see some components of it. So this is the eye. This is the lens of the eye. This is the sclera, the white part of the eye, and then this is the retina. So if we look at the retina, which we all know that we can see a couple of things that we see there. These are the photoreceptor cells. These are the rods and the combs, the ice cream combs here. This is the nucleus of these cells, and this is a photoreception portion. So this one, the bipolar cells and the ganglion cells, all these are nerve cells. Nerve cells. Surrounding that are these little cube cells that receive the nucleus and some granulation there. These are pigmented epithelium. That's epithelium. Below here we see the fibroblasts of the connective tissue that we see there. If we go back up toward the front of the eye, we can see the lens, and on the surface of the lens we see epithelial cells, little cube cells with round nuclei in them. These are epithelial cells of the lens. The lens is composed of just epithelial cells. Now, if we look at the iris, we can see not only see connective tissue in through there, and we can see epithelium on the surface in through here, but also you can see muscle. These are smooth muscle cells here, and this is a constrictor. So this constricts it to make the iris close down the pupil, so the pupil gets smaller in through there. So there is another muscle in the iris, and that's your dilator muscle. And this is the dilator muscle right here that opens out the iris so your pupil is larger. If we look at the cornea, we can see on the surface here, we see epithelium. On the surface, there's epithelium. And then these are keratocytes in through here. These are fibroblast-like cells located in through there. Epithelium, fibroblasts, and then there's another epithelial cells in through here at the bottom. And then this is the anterior chamber. This is the chamber of the eye filled full of fluid in through there. So if we look at those structures, we can look back at this. If we look at that again, we can look at the esophagus and trachea. So this is the esophagus right up through there. And this is the trachea. Trachea here, we see the cartilage in through there. So if we look at this area, so this is where the air will be going through, and we look at epithelium on the surface, we can see that they have ciliated cells. So these are ciliated cells, and that's part of the control mechanism to remove the mucus from your lungs. So it pumps the mucus out, and these little cells move it along. We can also, so that's epithelium, and we see more epithelium, these glands. These glands here that produce mucus or a prognathous serous secretion that lubricates the air and moistens the air. So right in through there, so this is epithelium. We see fibroblasts. So these are fibroblasts. This is connective tissue that connects things. We see some blood vessels. And this is a little piece of nerve. Waving right in through there is a little piece of nerve that we can see. And this is muscle. So this is smooth muscle cells. These are individual cells. You can see a nucleus here, So it's a group of cells a group of individual cells that constricts. So whenever it contracts, it brings us to two edges of cartilage together to increase, to reduce the size of the trachea. And so whenever something goes down the wrong pipe, you can make it smaller so you can blow things out. If you've ever been around a horse and blow a nose, you will know about that. So that's the trachea. And if we look at the esophagus, again, we can see epithelium on the surface. We see muscle cells in through there, lymphatic tissue that we can see, and there's connective tissue, the fibroblasts in between. So we can see these various structures, and this is a nice piece of nerve. This is a gland. That is a gland that is through there. I thought that was nerve, but that is a gland. Let's see if this is nerve. No, this is a blood vessel. A blood vessel, but we can see smooth muscle around it and epithelium on the surface, and you can actually see the red blood cells inside there. So I don't really see any nerve right handy there. More muscle here, and here there's a lymphoidal nodule that we have there. I don't really, yeah, there's muscle. This is muscle here, muscle there and there. So you have epithelium, connective tissue, muscle. So those are a couple ones that we want to look at. And then the last one is a finger, a little boy's finger. And so we can see the bones inside the finger that we see, and we can see the skin that in through there, and we see these ligaments that attach the muscle to the bone. So there's 3 bones that we see in there. So if we look at the bone, we can see there's cartilage on the end, blue, and the red here are bone cells that we can see. So these are bone cells. This is bone marrow that's inside there and surrounded by connective tissue. So this is connective tissue that we can see. But if we look at the little boy's fingerprints, you can see these are the projections that would make the fingerprints. So this is epithelium, connective tissue, still epithelium with the glands, so sweat glands that we see. This is connective tissue surrounding the bone, and this would be red cells that are in the bone marrow, and then this is cartilage cells that we can see. So we can see some of these structures in this to be a little finger, as we know. So I hope you can see these. The 4 basic types of tissue are epithelium, connective tissue, muscle, and nerve. Thank you.